Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. Let's get you up to speed with the top stories we're tracking this morning. 23,179 daily cases in Maharashtra. This is the highest since September. Delhi too is reporting over 500 cases, the highest in over 2 months. After the opposition accuses the government of exporting vaccines over distributing it within the country, the government hits back, says there is no shortage, warns that India has seen an average of 6.5% vaccine wastage. Mumbai top cop Param Bir Singh replaced amid Ambani security scare. Rao Devendra Fadnavis hits back, alleges a larger political conspiracy. The government's new rules have brought down pollution. This is what the Environment Minister says after a devastating report that says 22 Indian cities among 30 places with the worst air quality. Well, the big story that we're tracking for you this morning, the surge in COVID-19 infections in some parts of the country is now being seen as an emerging second peak. Maharashtra has reported 23,179 new cases on Wednesday, which is nearly 30% higher than the day before. And this is the highest cases that are being reported in Maharashtra since the 19th of September. Maharashtra reported 84 deaths in the last 24 hours. The fatality rate in the state is now 2.24%. Mumbai has also reported a huge rise in COVID-19 numbers with 2,377 new infections and 8 deaths in the last 24 hours. Coronavirus infections in the country fell below 9,000 in February but have steadily been increasing since, reaching 28,903 cases on Wednesday, the highest increase since December the 13th. Deaths have also increased by 188, which is the highest in over 2 months. Current death toll in the country due to COVID-19 stands at 1,59,044. The recent increase in cases all over the country has essentially been led by the state of Maharashtra, which continues to remain the worst hit. Nearly 62% of infections in the past 24 hours and 46% of the deaths were reported by Maharashtra, which has now ordered a lockdown in certain districts, put curbs on cinemas, hotels, restaurants until the end of the month. And while it does seem like Maharashtra is the worst affected, it's not the only metro. Mumbai is not the only metro that is seeing a surge in COVID-19 infections. Delhi too is reporting around 500 cases for the third running day. There were 536 new cases in the last 24 hours. This is the highest cases that Delhi has seen in over 2 months. Delhi's cases have climbed up from 425 on Tuesday. The fatality rate in the city remains at 1.7%. Now, 8 people have died and 945 have tested positive in Tamil Nadu today in the last 24 hours as well. 395 of these positive cases were in Chennai alone. Over 71,000 people have been tested for COVID. 800 plus for the third straight day. So these are of course the numbers as far as the state of Tamil Nadu is concerned. Let's also now get you up to speed with what's happening as far as the vaccination is concerned. Till 7 p.m. last evening, there were 14 lakh vaccinations that were administered. Meanwhile, India now officially is in the midst of a second wave of coronavirus. The Prime Minister yesterday reached out to chief ministers of different states to tell them to take some decisive steps to stop the numbers from rising. The Prime Minister has stressed on the strategy of test, track and treat. He's also urged states to minimize vaccine wastage.
हमें कोरोना की उस उभरती हुई सेकंड पीक को तुरंत रोकना ही होगा और इसके लिए हमें क्विक और डिसाइसिव कदम उठाने होंगे। कम से कम समय में ट्रैक करना और आरटी-पीसीआर टेस्ट रेट 70% से ऊपर रखना बहुत अहम है। हम ये भी देख रहे हैं कि कई राज्यों में रैपिड एंटीजन टेस्टिंग पर ही ज्यादा बल दिया जा रहा है और उसी भरोसे गाड़ी चल रही है। जैसे केरल है, उड़ीसा है, छत्तीसगढ़ है, यूपी है, इन सभी राज्यों में, मैं तो चाहता हूं देश के सभी राज्यों में हमें आरटी-पीसीटी टेस्ट और बढ़ाने पर जोर देना होगा। लेकिन इसके साथ ही हमें वैक्सीन डोसेज वेस्ट होने की समस्या को बहुत गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए। तेलंगाना और आंध्र प्रदेश में 10% से ज्यादा वैक्सीन वेस्टेज है। यूपी में भी वैक्सीन वेस्टेज करीब करीब वैसा ही है। वैक्सीन क्यों वेस्टेज हो रही है, इसकी भी राज्यों में समीक्षा होनी चाहिए और मैं मानता हूं हर रोज शाम को इसकी मॉनिटरिंग की व्यवस्था रहनी चाहिए। देखिए, इस लड़ाई में हम सफलतापूर्वक बच पाए हैं, उसका एक कारण था कि हम गांवों को इससे मुक्त रख पाए थे। लेकिन टियर 2, टियर 3 सिटी पहुंचा तो इसको गांव में जाने से देर नहीं लगेगी और गांवों को संभालना हमारी व्यवस्थाएं बहुत कम पड़ जाएगी।
India's COVID-19 cases now spreading to smaller towns and districts. In the last 15 days, 70 districts across 16 states have shown a spike of over 150%, while 55 districts across 17 states have shown a spike of between 100 to 150%. In places like Gwalior, it's as high as 360%.
रूप हमें पेंडेमिक का दिखाई दे रहा है। अब वो महामारी more so in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The earlier phase was much more intense in bigger cities. हमारे जो ग्रामीण क्षेत्र हैं, उनके और नजदीक हो गई है।
But as cases surge, the government today revealed the extent of vaccine wastage. It's as much as 6.5% nationally, but these four major states much higher. In Telangana, it's 17.6%. In Andhra Pradesh, 11.6%. Uttar Pradesh, 9.4%. Karnataka at 6.9% and Jammu and Kashmir at 6.6%. And in India, 6.5%.
और इस अमृत जैसी प्रेशियस कमोडिटी को सबसे महत्वपूर्ण आज के दिन में जो चीज है वो वैक्सीन है। अपने इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे लिए और देश के लिए इसमें वेस्टेज होना जो है वो बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है।
India's vaccine exports are also facing questions. Today, Shiv Sena leader Priyanka Chaturvedi raised questions on India's vaccine exports and pointed out that 5.8 crore vaccine doses have been exported while only 3.5 crore doses have been administered in India. Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee complained about centre not giving states enough vaccines, but government defended itself.
देश में वैक्सीन की कोई कमी नहीं है, ये मैं पहले भी आप लोगों को बता चुका हूं, पुनः निवेदन कर रहा हूं। 7,54,00,000 डोजेज अब तक भारत सरकार विभिन्न राज्यों को उपलब्ध करा चुकी है। इसके बाद यदि कोई कहते हैं कि देश को प्राथमिकता नहीं दी जा रही है, ये बिल्कुल आधारहीन और तथ्यहीन बात है।
So far, 1.3 crore people in the above 60 age group and those between 45 and 60 with comorbidities have been vaccinated. The government is yet to announce when it will open up vaccinations for rest of the age groups. In New Delhi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Now, as per the government's own estimate, there is a 150% rise in COVID-19 infections in 70 districts across 16 states in India. We're officially in the midst of a second wave of coronavirus. Should India therefore liberalize who it gives the vaccine to? Vishnu Shom spoke with Dr. Randeep Guleria. Listen in.
Is there an official recommendation at any level in the government presently to extend vaccination to all adults?
No, that is not there. We still need to focus on the high risk group because first objective of the vaccination was to decrease mortality, and therefore to decrease mortality we need to really make sure that we first step vaccinate all the elderly and the high risk groups who have a higher chance of dying because of COVID-19, and along with that we have enough doses to do that. Remember, in the first phase, we had calculation that the government had was that it would be 30 crore individuals who would be in the first phase. That means we would need 60 crore doses, which is 600 million doses. We really don't have that many doses to really say confidently that we can really vaccinate all of these before we say that it should be extended to all adults. it would be unfair that we vaccinate a younger person at the expense of an elderly who then has severe COVID and dies because of it.
That's an important point. If we don't have vaccines, then perhaps the question doesn't arise at the moment. However, the next question is this: should vaccinations be available to all adults or only those above 45 for now? So taken into account what you mentioned, we don't have the numbers, comorbidities for 45 plus are getting injections. What about for all 45 plus?
So I think that is something that could be done and gradually in a graded manner. You remember the initial vaccination was for 50 and above and less than 50 with comorbidities. So I think over a period of time, we will move towards that number, that we will probably be able to do it for more and more adults, open it up as far as the age is concerned, once we are able to have that confidence that we have doses to do that.
So Dr. Guleria, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you just suggest that, 45 plus would be the next demographic to receive the vaccinations?
That is something that is provided on the number of doses that we have. What I was saying that the initial recommendation was to then start with 50 plus and less than 50 with comorbidity. So we could really look at bringing it down from 60 to 50 once we are confident that we have that many doses to cover everyone who falls in that. And we also simultaneously work on opening more and more vaccination sites so that the coverage is uniform, equity, both in urban and rural area.
All right. So basically expansion can take place depending on availability and increase in expansion of where vaccinations can take place. All right. My next question, once cleared, how long will it take to implement extended vaccination to a larger group? So let's say 45 plus, right? If that were to happen and stocks were available, how soon could the process of implementation start?
That will not take very long. We already have the Owen 0.0 available with us, being used, and as the bandwidth be used for a larger number of. So that should not be a problem. We have vaccination sites. If you open up more vaccination sites, you can extend the timing of the vaccination. We could take more and be able to vaccinate a larger number as long as this is not only for the first shot, but for the second shot also.
Now, a day before addressing rallies in poll-bound West Bengal and Assam, Prime Minister Modi said on Wednesday that there is a desire for change in Bengal, and with the BJP's agenda of good governance striking a chord among people. In a series of tweets, he said that he's glad to be getting the opportunity to be among sisters and brothers of West Bengal on the 18th of March. He said he's going to be addressing rallies in Purulia. In another tweet, he also talked about how he's going to be in Assam and he is looking forward to being among the people of Assam conducting a rally in Karimganj, while the BJP is running a campaign to end the running of the Trinamool Congress's tenure rule in Bengal. He said that it is working to retain power in Assam. Now, after his mega rally in Kolkata's Brigade ground on the 7th of March, Prime Minister is back in Bengal today for a rally at Purulia. The Kolkata rally was celebrated by the BJP as a huge success, but after some rallies with poor turnouts in the last few days, including the Home Minister's rally at Jhargram, all eyes will be on Prime Minister Modi's rally in Purulia. Well, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's shift our focus to the big political story we're tracking from Assam. The BJP is carpet bombing with star campaigners including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visiting the state every other week. The big fear for the party is losing seats in lower Assam due to the AIUDF Congress coming together.
आप सभी दोनों हाथ अपना उठाइए जय श्री राम जय जय श्री राम ये महामंत्री
UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is one of over 12 star campaigners BJP has lined up for extensive campaigning for the first phase polls in Assam. But could this front foot campaigning have to do with electoral nervousness? Sources have told NDTV that the BJP is banking heavily on upper and central Assam seats, an area where they won 35 of the 47 seats in the 126-member assembly in 2016. BJP hopes this region could do the magic again to compensate perhaps for any losses in the lower Assam region.
So it is important for us to retain all the seats and improve our tally by at least 3 to 4. We will lose some seat in lower Assam. I mean, whatever loss we will have because of UDF and Congress alliance in the Muslim dominated seats. So we have to really factor those into account.
The 40 seats of Lower Assam region would go to polls in the third phase on 6th April. In 2016, the division of votes between the Congress and AIUDF had resulted in victory for BJP in at least 20 seats. But now the BJP fears that a huge vote share might stack up against the BJP due to Mahajod and the Ajmal factor. Assam has about 35% Muslim voters.
ये सारे 33% या 35% ये अजमल साहब के इशारे पे जाते हैं, अजमल साहब की बातें सुनते हैं, तो इन लोगों को डर है कि 35% एक साथ में पलट गया तो इन लोगों पे कभी भी हुकूमत नहीं बन सकती.
Which is why the BJP has perhaps turned its attention to Upper Assam, the indigenous Assamese heartland where tea voters are also a major factor. Congress says not the BJP but Congress will regain in first phase in these make or break polls.
They have seen the true face of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Modi came to Assam, senior leaders came to Assam, they made big promises and they have done entirely the opposite.
The big question now, can star campaigners of the BJP and the party's calculation help it with the second term? Or can the opposition stitch together a strong alliance to propel to power? With Ratnadeep Chaudhary, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Short break here. We'll be back with more news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Kerala, despite women outnumbering men as the electorate inside the assembly, there are just 9 women MLAs out of the 140. And this time the CPM has fielded around 14% and Congress has fielded around 10% as women candidates. A reminder of the need for a women's reservation bill. Sneha Koshi spoke with 2 prominent women candidates from the CPM-led front and the Congress-led front over the issue.
Minister, so how rare is it to have a woman in Thayyam form?
It is very rare, but it is traditional. In Kerala, I think 2 or 3 places are there where women Thayyam is functioning. And in Kannur district, I think 2 places we have women Thayyam, and it is very rare. And in assembly also, we have the large number. Last time the UDF have no women in the assembly, only by the by-election that Shanima Usman elected as member, then only they got 1 woman, but we had more than women. But I am not saying it is sufficient, but every time CPM and LDF is casting more women in assembly.
Well, almost 50% of the electorate in Kerala are women. But what about candidates being fielded from across parties? Well, joining us right now is Nurbina Rashid. She is one of the candidates who is contesting this assembly elections. She's being fielded by the IUML and she is the first woman in 25 years. In 25 years, you're the first woman being fielded. So Nurbina Rashid, how does it feel firstly?
I'm extremely happy that women's wing of the Indian Union Muslim League was recognized by our leaders. That was the very appreciated. Women in all over the Kerala are very much happy and they are excited that they are having a feeling that they are recognized. Fielding a women candidate is a symbol of recognizing the womanhood. So they are recognizing that women can do a lot in the legislative assembly.
So what do you expect now? Is this going to be like a landmark that yes, after 25 years Nurbina Rashid contested, or is this going to be a precedence for many more to come?
No, not at all, not at all. We are creating the history here. we can expect more women candidates in coming years also.
So the onus now is also on you. Do you have to prove that you can win? Is that a condition that the party has said?
I hope that I will win the election because I am confident in my people, the people of South constituency.
Right. This is also IUML sitting constituency.
Yes, IUML sitting constituency. So I have to work a lot to maintain that constituency.
Do you feel that you have to, that now that you've been given this opportunity, you have to prove yourself, and if you don't by any chance win, it's going to be like putting everybody down? Is that kind of a pressure on you?
No. Why be a pessimist? I'm optimist.
Right.
So I hope that I will win. I will give an opportunity for the coming years for the women, for my sisters. So I must work hard, not only for me, not only for my party, not only for my friend. I have to work hard for my womanhood, my friends, my sisters, my co-workers.
And on to the other big development that we're tracking. There are troubling questions for suspended Mumbai officer Sachin Vase after the National Investigation Agency that looks into the anti-terror probe seized a black Mercedes-Benz car which was allegedly used by Sachin Vase. And in fact, this seems to have rolled with the Maharashtra government deciding to transfer Param Bir Singh, the Mumbai police commissioner, out of his post.
Mumbai's police commissioner Param Bir Singh has been transferred as DG Home Guard after the department's disastrous handling of the Ambani bomb scare case. On Feb 25th, a Scorpio with explosives was found near the residence of Mukesh Ambani, India's richest man. The NIA alleges the number plate of the vehicle has been recovered from a car that Sachin Vase was using. This CCTV footage shows a PPE-clad man near the Ambani residence around the same time. The NIA believes this is Vase after recovering some clothes from the Mercedes car he was using. The NIA also claims the fingerprints on the Scorpio match with Vase's and that Vase was travelling in an Innova tailing the Scorpio car.
सीज किया है जिस सीजर में जो स्कॉर्पियो पे नंबर प्लेट थी उसको रिकवर किया है, 5 लाख से ज्यादा कैश रिकवर किया है, एक नोट काउंटिंग मशीन रिकवर की है, कुछ कपड़े रिकवर किए हैं और इसके बीच में जांच जारी है.
The owner of the Mercedes says he had sold the car to a portal that sells used car.
अभी तक मुझे कोई ऑफिशियल लेना है पर्सन या लोकल पुलिस किसी की तरफ से कॉल नहीं है, बट अगर ऐसा कुछ आता है तो मैं 100% उनको कोऑपरेट करूंगा और जो कुछ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन उनको चाहिए वो मैं सारे प्रोवाइड करूंगा.
According to the owner of a number plate shop, Sachin Vase had also taken away the video recorder for his CCTV cameras, but he does not remember the exact day of his visit. Vase is accused of also taking and wiping out CCTV footage from his own apartment block.
उनकी पूरी टीम आई थी, 5 लोग थे करीबन, तो डीवीआर लेके गए और फिर उसके बाद वहाँ पे मुझे बुलाया गया.
The opposition BJP is using Vase's past association with the Shiv Sena to target the government.
ये परमवीर सिंह या सचिन वाजे बहुत छोटे लोग हैं. इनका नाम लेके ये कभी गुत्थी सुलझने नहीं वाली है. सचिन वाजे को ऑपरेट करने वाले जो सरकार में बैठे हुए लोग हैं, उनकी जांच कौन करेगा?
However, the key question still remains. What was Vase's motive that he would allegedly commit such an act? And how could a cop commit a crime and leave behind a trail of evidence? In Mumbai with Sunil Singh, Saurabh Gupta, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Well, it's another blot on the record of the national capital and on the country for that matter. Of the world's 30 most polluted cities, 22 are in India, with the national capital being ranked as the most polluted city in the world.
India's seat of power, surrounded by the worst air pollution of all global capitals measured in a new report. But the government is on the defensive. The environment minister says pollution levels are falling.
पोल्यूशन तो सब जगह है दुनिया में, सभी शहरों में प्रदूषण की अलग अलग समस्या है. इतने छोटे भूभाग पर अगर इतनी बड़ी संख्या में लोग रहते हैं, वाहन रहेंगे, उद्योग रहेंगे, उद्योगों के लिए हमने नए मानक लाए और इसके कारण उद्योगों का प्रदूषण भी कम हुआ है. तो ये सब निजात करते हैं और तभी प्रदूषण कम होता है और मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारे प्रयास सार्थक रहेंगे.
Delhi's levels of PM 2.5 is an annual average of 84 micrograms per cubic meter. This is over 8 times the World Health Organization's safe limits. PM 2.5 is the really tiny, really toxic pollutant particles. Ironically, the report coincides with the centre's Air Quality Management Commission being wound up, as the government did not get it ratified in Parliament, raising questions on the government's commitment to clean India's air. In its short-lived term, the Air Quality Commission management was barely heard, let alone seen. But sources there say that they expect the commission to return with an expanded mandate and more powers. But India's air quality crisis rolls on. Overall, Ghaziabad is the second most polluted city in the world. In all 22 of the 30 places with the worst air quality are in India, most of these in the north.
If you see those 22, several of the cities in the neighboring states of Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan and Punjab are listed, which are contributing to the air quality degradation of national capital region significantly.
The health costs of air pollution are severe, from asthma to cognitive issues to heart strokes and even heart diseases. Experts believe that this has caused at least 1.6 million deaths in 2019 alone. But cutting down pollution to the World Health Organization's limits could add as much as 9 years in Delhi to a resident's life. With camera person Sushil Rathi in Delhi, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Well, we'll keep a close watch on all those developments. On to a bizarre story that we're reporting. The Purnagiri Jan Shatabdi Express train ran backwards between Tanakpur and Pilibhit railway station on Wednesday evening for over 35 kilometers. The train, which was on its way to Tanakpur in Uttarakhand from Delhi, was finally stopped near the Khatima in the US Nagar district. The driver had applied brakes and vacuum released in order to avoid some cattle on the tracks. Due to the vacuum release, the train started running in the opposite direction. Passengers deboarded at Khatima and was sent to Tanakpur by road in a bus. All right, so the Jan Shatabdi there running backwards for 35 kilometers before the brakes could be applied. With that, we're slipping into a very short break. We have a lot more lined up. Stay with us. Thanks so much for speaking with NDTV. Minister, Ireland saw its COVID peak when there were about 8,000 plus cases. The numbers now much lower to around 300 plus cases on a daily basis. Has lifting the lockdown restrictions very gradually helped your country?
Well, I think we still have a pretty tight lockdown in Ireland. You know, our economy is functioning, but with significant restrictions. So we still have restaurants and pubs closed. We still have building sites closed. Our children are back to school, but our economy has yet to reopen in any kind of a normal way. And of course, we have a lot of restrictions on international travel as well. So, you know, we are very cautious. We have had 3 waves of COVID, one after the other. Each time we have thought that we had got on top of the spread of COVID through restrictions. And each time when we loosened those restrictions, we've seen a new wave of the virus. And so we are determined this time not to have a 4th wave of COVID. And so we need to get the numbers down very low. And most importantly, we need to get our population vaccinated, which I know is a huge challenge for so many countries.
Right. Speaking of vaccinations, Ireland is one of the many nations that has suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now that the European Medical Authority and the World Health Organization has cleared it, will you reinstate the vaccine?
Yes, I think that will happen shortly. We're waiting for a final recommendation from the European Medicines Authority to do that. I mean, this was very much a precaution. There were some cases in Northern Europe of people who had blood clots having taken AstraZeneca. But I think there is a growing and also very strong body of evidence to show that AstraZeneca is safe. And so I hope that within the coming days, we will be able to return to using AstraZeneca as one of 4 vaccines that are now approved for use across the European Union and in Ireland, so that we can try to get as many people as possible vaccinated every week between now and the end of the summer, when I hope we will be in a position to ensure that every adult in the country that wants a vaccine will be able to get one. And I hope we'll be in a position to start sharing surplus vaccines also over the summer, once we get our vulnerable populations vaccinated. Because if the world is not sharing vaccine, well then none of us are safe. And I think it will be a big challenge in the coming months to ensure that parts of the world that have a lot of vaccine, in fact, some countries will have significant surplus vaccine. We need to ensure that all of the vaccines that are available globally are made available to vulnerable populations globally. And of course, you know, huge economies like India have the opportunity to be able to produce very significant volumes of vaccine, not only for your own population, but for other parts of the world as well.
Yes. I think equitable distributions of vaccine is a very important point that you make. What's your assessment then of the global response to the pandemic, the role, say, of an organization like the World Health Organization? Has it brought the world closer? Has it brought us closer? Or do you feel in a certain sense it's perhaps highlighted the disparities even more?
To be honest, I think a little bit of both. So, you know, there have been some countries who should have known better, have been undermining the work of the WHO up until a number of months ago at least. I'm glad to see that that is not the case any longer. I think the World Health Organization is enormously valuable in the face of a global pandemic like this one. And we have significantly increased our funding to the World Health Organization as a small country, and other countries have done the same. And I think this has got to be a lesson that unless everybody is safe, nobody is safe. When we look at how this virus is behaving, when we look at how new strains develop and mutate, the truth is that the world together has got to find a way of ensuring that we make the vaccine available to all countries, regardless of wealth or influence, or size or scale or geography. And I hope that as we move through the summer, as parts of the world that have significant volumes of vaccine available to them protect their own vulnerable populations, which of course there's huge pressure on them to do politically, I hope we will see a approach towards ensuring that the rest of the world can get vaccinated as well. And the role of a small country like Ireland within the European Union can be important, but of course the role of a country as large and as powerful and as influential as India will be hugely important in that challenge.
Well, absolutely. And what more, you know, in your assessment, can countries do to better collaborate when it comes to equitable distribution of vaccines, making it accessible and easily available to the global population?
Well, certainly, I think, I mean, there are two things. First of all, where there is excess vaccine, and some countries have pre-ordered huge volumes of vaccine. So, for example, in my country, there are less than 5 million people in our population, but we have ordered over 18 million doses of vaccine. Now, of course, many of those doses need double doses to protect people. But even so, we will have significantly excess vaccine, hopefully by early autumn. And we will move to share that vaccine as soon as we possibly can. But there are many other countries that are in the same position, and their excess vaccine are much, much higher volumes than what Ireland would have. So the first thing is to ensure that countries that have spare capacity share that spare capacity as soon as possible. Secondly, we've got to ensure that we can manufacture more vaccine. And so the technology needs to be shared to ensure that companies that have the capacity to replicate this vaccine in production facilities, and India has huge capacity here, that actually they get the IP and the support that they need to be able to produce vaccine in large volumes to ensure that we can get vaccines safely to parts of the world that need it.
All right, Minister Coveney, thanks so much for speaking with NDTV. Well, the worrying surge in coronavirus numbers continues to remain our top focus story on Good Morning India. The surge in COVID-19 infections in some parts of the country is now being seen as an emerging second wave of COVID in India. Maharashtra has reported a worrying rise of 23,179 new cases on Wednesday, which is nearly 30% higher than what it reported a day before and is the highest in the state since September the 19th. Maharashtra reported 84 deaths in this time period as well. The fatality rate in the state is at 2.24%. Mumbai too has reported a surge in COVID-19 infections, reporting over 2,300 new infections and 8 deaths in the last 24 hours. Now, COVID infections in the country fell to below 9,000 on a daily basis in February, but has steadily increased since then, reaching 28,900 on Wednesday. This is the highest case rise that India has reported since the 13th of December 2020. The deaths have increased by 188, which is also the highest in 2 months. The recent increase in COVID infections is mainly being led by the state of Maharashtra, which continues to remain the worst hit. Nearly 62% infections in the past 24 hours and 46% of the deaths have been reported in the state of Maharashtra, which has now ordered COVID-19 restrictions of varying degrees to be put in place in certain districts. Lockdowns have been put in place. Curbs on cinemas, hotels and restaurants have also been put in place till the end of the month. Well, it's not just Mumbai, but even Delhi, which is reporting around 500 cases for a third straight day. There were 536 new cases in 24 hours. This is the highest that Delhi has also seen in the last 2 months. My colleague Sukirti joining us with the very latest. Sukirti, it's a worrying rise in infections, not just in Mumbai and Maharashtra, but even Delhi, which is now seeing 500 plus cases for a third straight day.
Well, yes, the infection spread is both across urban as well as rural areas at this point of time. While in urban areas, of course, places like Mumbai and Delhi, as you mentioned, are seeing a very worrying spike in cases. But also rural areas, smaller towns are a big concern at this point of time. That is something that even the Prime Minister pointed out yesterday, that once the disease spreads to the rural areas, it will be very difficult for our health machinery to handle the cases there. And especially 70 districts across 16 states that have seen a spike of over 150% in cases in the last 15 days. And if you look at smaller towns like Ratlam in Madhya Pradesh, it has seen a spike of 500%. If you look at Ropad in Punjab, the spike has been over 200%. So especially these districts also continue to be a concern, and places like Delhi that had started seeing a decline, even they are seeing a surge. And we are expecting the new numbers for the last 24 hours to come in the next half an hour or so. The government will release them, and those numbers are expected to be even higher than yesterday. So the situation does not seem to be in control at any time soon, but the government at this point repeatedly issuing different measures to the states to ramp up testing, to get more active on contact tracing, but at this point the cases only seem to be shooting through the roof.
All right, appreciate you, Sukirti, for joining us with the very latest. Well, it's not just Mumbai and Delhi, but there are over 1,000 new coronavirus infections that are being reported in the state of Karnataka as well. This after the state began showing an increase in infections over the last couple of weeks. Now, the state government is aiming to double its daily vaccinations as it continues to figure in the top 5 worst affected states in terms of rise in daily cases. Maya Sharma been reporting on this story, joins us with the very latest. Maya, it's a grim picture as far as Karnataka is concerned, which continues to feature in the top 5 states as far as daily caseload is concerned.
That is correct. Karnataka had been doing very well. The numbers had been dropping considerably, particularly in December. But now we're looking at over 1,000 new cases for the second consecutive day, and also over 10,000 active cases. At its low, the active caseload actually dropped below 5,000 to 4,000 and all. But now it's up to beyond 10,000 active cases. The government is taking this very seriously. They're going to be opening 3 COVID care centers in Bengaluru, which is one of the 3 worst affected districts, along with Kalaburgi and Bidar. They're also going to attempt to double the daily vaccination target in Karnataka to about 3 lakhs a day. It is now around 1.5 lakhs a day or less, but in 3,500 vaccination centers, they're hoping to double the daily vaccination target to 3 lakhs in a bid to try and curb the spread of COVID-19. Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa has also told the citizens that they have to wear masks, they have to observe social distancing and other COVID norms like not gathering in large groups in order to avoid a lockdown or night curfew. He says they're not thinking of night curfew or lockdown right now, but it's up to the citizens really to make sure it does not happen by actually following this COVID protocols. Now, the Karnataka has been in the top 5 states over the last several weeks now in terms of new caseloads, and the state government is really trying to take different measures as well to try and combat this. They're getting the private health sector also involved in primary healthcare centers, which will be a long-term effort, of course, but it is a bit also to boost the government health infrastructure. But right now, Karnataka also dealing with rumors of a lockdown, with an old video of B.S. Yediyurappa being shared where he announced the lockdown last year. That is not happening right now. But the Chief Minister does say that if the populace does not actually start wearing masks and observing COVID protocols, they would have to take matters even more seriously. But over 1,000 cases for 2 consecutive days, over 10,000 active cases, Karnataka needing to take care as the numbers of COVID-19 cases rises in the state.
All right, Maya, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. Let's now shift our focus to poll-bound Tamil Nadu, where health authorities are cracking down on COVID violations with fines and regulating political gatherings following a steady rise in positive cases. Nearly 100% in daily tally since the 1st of March. Sam, it is indeed a worrying story as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. It is a poll-bound state. And it's seeing a steep rise in COVID-19 infections, over 940 infections in the last 24 hours. What are some of the measures that are being put in place?
Well, one, there is a widespread crackdown in areas where people largely gather. It could be marketplaces, it could be public places, it could also be political rallies. But in the case of the political rallies, while giving permission, Rishika, authorities are making it a precondition on the political parties seeking permission for these to ensure that they would give masks to everyone. They would ensure everyone gathered there would be wearing masks. And in terms of physical distancing, it's a nightmare because these rallies largely violate across the state. And this has led to worry that this could lead to an exponential rise in numbers, not just in a few cities, but across Tamil Nadu as these campaigns take place everywhere. In terms of numbers, there is a 99% rise in daily COVID tally in Tamil Nadu. On the 1st of March, it was only 474, and yesterday it has touched 945, and that's why authorities are really concerned, and now they are fining people who violate by asking them to pay 200 rupees. They have dispelled rumors that Tamil Nadu is heading for yet another lockdown. At least for the moment, authorities have clarified there is no such plan. But in terms of vaccination, the state is doing pretty well. They're trying to intensify, although 17 lakh people have been vaccinated. And lastly, they're also getting ready more number of hospitals to make sure if there is an exponential rise, they will have enough place, going back to the early situation to keep beds ready. At the moment, certainly a worrying trend in Tamil Nadu, but authorities say right now it's under control.
All right, will certain curbs be put in place? Should certain curbs be put in place at this juncture? Because remember, cases are still rising. India is still at the beginning of a second wave of COVID-19 infections. What can we do to prevent the peak of these infections? That's the big question. Joining us on the broadcast, Dr. Suranjit Chatterjee, Senior Consultant Internal Medicine, Indraprasth Apollo Hospitals. We also have with us Dr. Rajesh Parekh, Director of the Medical Research Jaslok Hospital from Mumbai. I want to begin by asking you, Dr. Parekh, because I think Maharashtra and Mumbai particularly present as worrying pictures at the moment. Very simple question. We've broken down the numbers. We've been reporting on, the spike in COVID-19 infections that one has seen now, say, over the course of the last 7 days, a steady increase. What can we do to stop this in its tracks?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be with you. We have to be taking immediate measures, and some of them are already in place. At this point in time, there doesn't seem to be a compelling need for a total lockdown. But I'm afraid that's the direction in which we are heading if we don't get a grip on this pandemic quickly. So most of the processes are in place. The zones where the virus is spreading in a somewhat uncontrollable manner have been identified. Containment measures are being put in place. We need to escalate testing in those areas, and although testing might indicate that there are more cases than seen on the current level of testing, it's important to test. It's important to isolate the people who turn out to be positive on these tests, and it's also important to get aggressive with contact testing. We have to keep in mind that it's in the nature of this virus to come in recurrent waves, and we should learn whatever lessons we can from what happened in the first wave.
All right. What are some of those lessons, Dr. Chatterjee, as far as Delhi is concerned? For instance, we're still not at as worrying a level as, say, Mumbai is. But Delhi still is seeing the highest rise in cases that it's seen in over 2 months. There have been over 500 cases now being reported for 3 straight days. What's the big worry, Dr. Chatterjee, and what, according to you, can be done to sort of stop the second wave from spreading?
See, I thought that we are lucky as compared to Mumbai and Maharashtra that we are still not having that many cases. But I'm surprised that Delhi, the way Delhi is behaving, the way Delhi people are behaving, and everything has been opened up. I thought that I obviously don't at any time recommend a lockdown or something like that, but it has to be restrained. There has to be the lockdown should not be there, but people, all these weddings, people visiting restaurants, people having all these parties at home, they have to be all curtailed. If we continue this way, we will go the way Maharashtra is going. It's unfortunate for Maharashtra that they are having such a high number of cases, and I'm really scared that Delhi might go the same way. So we have to, the government has to, on their way, have more restrictions on any public gathering. People on their side, they have to really restrict their activities, not to go for parties. They have to follow all the measures that have been spoken for the last 1 year. If we don't do, then I'm afraid that the numbers might surge. Even what we are seeing nowadays, that it might go into the smaller villages or the smaller towns.
That's actually my other question. The other important worrying aspect of, the onset of the second wave is the proliferation of COVID-19 to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and by virtue of that to, the rural parts of the country. Dr. Parekh, how worried are you about COVID spread in remote parts of the country, in rural parts of the country? Because the healthcare infrastructure may not necessarily be as robust to be able to deal with the spread of COVID-19 in smaller districts and towns.
Well, I certainly am very concerned. This seems to be a deja vu situation. These are not new concerns. These are the same concerns that all of us were expressing a little less than a year ago. And once again, as we are in the beginnings of a second wave, the concerns remain the same. Most important, we can sit and advise the government on what measures they should take or should not take. But I think what's primarily important is for the citizens themselves, for all of us ourselves to realize that certain things in this pandemic are well within our control. And if we practice something which should have become a drill by now and should have come to us as naturally as brushing our teeth, to keep social distance, to wear one or better still 2 layers of masks, to stay at home as far as possible. That's the way to get the pandemic under control. Otherwise, no matter what measures the government takes, no matter what policy measures are discussed in closed rooms or in ivory towers, the pandemic's second wave is here. The only way it can be controlled is by preventive policy.
Okay, so policy decisions of course is one aspect of it, but I think what Dr. Parikh is stressing on is individual action, what each person can do to protect themselves from getting infected. Dr. Chatterjee, I want to give you the last word, because the other worrying aspect now is vaccine wastage. India on an average is wasting 6.5% of vaccine doses. How concerned are you, and what do you think can be done to ramp up our vaccination efforts?
See, what is happening now is there's again a bit of a vaccine hesitancy that is coming up with all the things that have been told about AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, we have not really observed any untoward major side effects with these vaccines, and we have to all know that these vaccines, both the vaccines are safe, so that the hesitancy goes away from the mind of the people. The other thing is that the numbers, see, we know that we have vaccinated so many number of people, but the percentage as compared to the population is still very, very low. So as the private hospitals have been opened up, even I think the numbers, the timings have to be increased, the infrastructure has to be further enhanced so that more and more people can be vaccinated. And I think now we have to be slightly cautious on the front. We have to also open up other people to get vaccinations also, obviously under scrutiny, but the numbers of vaccination has to go up, because otherwise we'll be in trouble in the months to come.
All right, so clearly vaccine hesitancy is something that we need to deal with. The right message needs to be sent out, and more people need to be encouraged to go out and get the vaccine. That's the big differentiator between the previous wave of COVID in India and this wave, that we do have a vaccine and you can in fact protect yourself from the infection. Thank you so much, doctors, for sparing your time this morning and being with us. It's a story we're going to continue to track very closely. COVID-19 cases in India are peaking once again. The latest data should be out in just a bit. We'll get you the very latest. Short break here. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. Troubling questions for suspended Mumbai police officer Sachin Vaze after the National Investigating Agency that looked into the anti-terror probe seized a black Mercedes-Benz car which was allegedly used by the cop. And after this seizure, the first real casualty seems to have emerged. Heads have rolled, with the Maharashtra government now deciding to transfer Param Bir Singh, the sitting police commissioner, out. Here's the full story.
Mumbai's police commissioner Param Bir Singh has been transferred as DG Home Guard after the department's disastrous handling of the Ambani bomb scare case. On Feb 25th, a Scorpio with explosives was found near the residence of Mukesh Ambani, India's richest man. The NIA alleges the number plate of the vehicle has been recovered from a car that Sachin Vaze was using. This CCTV footage shows a PPE-clad man near the Ambani residence around the same time. The NIA believes this is Vaze after recovering some clothes from the Mercedes car he was using. The NIA also claims the fingerprints on the Scorpio match with Vaze's and that Vaze was travelling in an Innova tailing the Scorpio car.
सीज किया है जिस ईदर में जो स्कॉर्पियो पे नंबर प्लेट थी उसको रिकवर किया है, 5 लाख से ज्यादा कैश रिकवर किया है, एक नोट काउंटिंग मशीन रिकवर की है, कुछ कपड़े रिकवर किए हैं और इसके बीच में जांच जारी है.
The owner of the Mercedes says he had sold the car to a portal that sells used car.
अभी तक मुझे कोई ऑफिशियल NIA पर्सन या लोकल पुलिस किसी की तरफ से कॉल नहीं है, बट अगर ऐसा कुछ आता है तो मैं 100% उनको कोऑपरेट करूंगा और जो कुछ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन उनको चाहिए वो मैं सारे प्रोवाइड करूंगा.
According to the owner of a number plate shop, Sachin Vaze had also taken away the video recorder for his CCTV cameras, but he does not remember the exact day of his visit. Vaze is accused of also taking and wiping out CCTV footage from his own apartment block.
उनकी पूरी टीम आई थी, 5 लोग थे करीबन, तो DVR लेके गए और फिर उसके बाद वहाँ पे मुझे बुलाया गया.
The opposition BJP is using Wastage's past association with the Shiv Sena to target the government.
ये परमवीर सिंह या सचिन वाजे बहुत छोटे लोग हैं, इनका नाम लेके ये कभी गुत्थी सुलझने नहीं वाली है। सचिन वाजे को ऑपरेट करने वाले जो सरकार में बैठे हुए लोग हैं, उनकी जांच कौन करेगा?
However, the key question still remains. What was Wastage's motive that he would allegedly commit such an act? And how could a cop commit a crime and leave behind a trail of evidence? In Mumbai with Sunil Singh, Saurabh Gupta, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Welcome back. Let's get you a market update. Markets firmly in the green this morning. Sensex is surging over the 300 points. All sectorial indices at the moment appear to be in the green. Let's break down what's happening in the markets for you. Well, like I said, the Sensex firmly in the green there, trading above 50,181 in this morning's trade. It's gained over 379 points. Metals, banks and realty are in fact the sectors that are leading these gains. Let's break it down for you. As you can see, top gainers, Hindalco, Zee Entertainment, GAIL at the moment. Hindalco trading at 335, up 2.88%. Zee Entertainment at 208.25, up 2.36%. And GAIL also trading above the 140 mark, up 2.28% in this morning's trade. Now remember, investors are cheering upbeat global cues as well. UPL, Tata Motors and Indiabulls Housing all in the green this morning. UPL gaining 12.60, trading at 620. Tata Motors is at 312, gaining 2.01%. Indiabulls Housing, which was in the red for the last 2 days, has also gained significantly, trading above the 200 mark, gaining over 1%. More top gainers, JSW Steel, ICICI Bank and Eicher Motors also driving up the markets this morning. JSW is above 1.5% in this morning's trade at 429. ICICI Bank trading at 597, up 1.3%. Eicher Motors at 2680, also up 1.26%. Well, let's also get you the metal top gainers. SAIL, Hindalco, Jindal Steel and Power driving up the markets this morning. SAIL opening in the green by 3.6% in this morning's trade. Hindalco trading above the 335 mark, up 2.83%. Jindal Steel and Power also trading above the 300 mark. Tata Steel, Nalco and JSW also continue to drive up the markets. Tata Steel up 16.95, almost 2.4% up at 721. Nalco trading at 57.55, also up 2.2%. JSW Steel also up almost 1.7%, trading at 430. Let's get you up to speed with the top gainers from the banking sector. Federal Bank, IDBI, SBI all driving up the markets at the moment. SBI, in fact, almost up by 1.6%, trading at 373. IDBI up 2.09%, trading at 36.60. Federal Bank also up 2.18% at 81.9. Axis Bank, IndusInd Bank and ICICI also faring well in this morning's trade. Axis Bank up 11.35, IndusInd up 14.95, almost 15 points, gaining almost 1.5% this morning. IndusInd trading at 1,024. ICICI at 597, up almost 1.4 points in this morning's trade. Realty top gainers, Indiabulls Real Estate, Prestige Estate and Suntech Realty picking up in this morning's trade. They were all bleeding yesterday. Indiabulls Real Estate is up almost 3.55 points this morning's trade. Prestige Estate Projects at 281, I beg your pardon, up 1.2%. Suntech Realty at 331.30. DLF, Omax and Godrej Properties are also in the green. Godrej Properties up almost a percentage point, up by 12.85, trading comfortably above 1400. Omax up by almost a percentage point and DLF also up by 1.18. All right, so that's as far as the markets are concerned. Remember, the US Fed decided to keep short-term borrowing rates near zero. Global markets also cheering in the backdrop of that. Now, the Fed has also raised the US GDP growth forecast to 6.5% in 2021 and no plans to hike rates through 2023. So this, of course, is also driving up the markets, currently up 0.76%. Firmly in the green as of 9:35 this morning. Keep a close watch on those numbers for you. Well, on to the big political focus. A day before addressing rallies in poll-bound West Bengal and Assam, Prime Minister Modi said on Wednesday that there is a desire for change in Bengal and that the BJP's agenda for good governance is striking a chord among people. In a series of tweets, he said he's glad to be getting the opportunity to be among the people of West Bengal today. He said that he's going to be addressing a rally in Purulia. In another tweet, he said that he's also going to be in Assam today, which is the 18th of March. And is in fact looking forward to being with the people of Assam. Remember, there is a serious challenge as far as the BJP is concerned in Assam, with the Congress AIUDF coming together. The BJP is looking to end the Trinamool's tenure rule and also looking to retain power in Assam. Now, BJP chief JP Nadu met with Bengal leaders till 4 a.m. this morning as far as discussing ticket distribution for the 5th and 6th phase of the election is concerned. This came amid discontent over ticket distribution within the BJP in West Bengal. The next list of candidates may be announced either today or tomorrow. Akhilesh tracking the details of that story. Akhilesh, a lot of rumbling within the West Bengal BJP after ticket distribution. The BJP clearly has taken stock. You're reporting that there was an all-important meeting that went on till the wee hours of the morning.
Absolutely, Rishika, and it was expected that the BJP is going to face this kind of resentment in West Bengal because a lot of people have crossed over from Trinamool Congress to the BJP, and of course the BJP's old cadre, they feel neglected and they allege that these elements, there are certain criminal elements also which have sneaked into the BJP's cadre. So that's why they are resisting that tickets should not be given to these kind of people. And we have seen a protest in front of the BJP office in Kolkata day before yesterday. In fact, the police had to resort to mild lathi charge to disperse all these protesters. So in fact, the party high command has taken a serious note of this dissent, and the party's Central Election Committee, which met yesterday, also discussed about this. And after the meeting got over, there was another round of meeting which went on till 4 o'clock in the morning, where Party President JP Nadda and senior leaders from West Bengal were also present. And the BJP is now attempting to see that, this kind of resentment is not repeated when they announce the rest of the candidates. And that is why now they are very careful. And in fact, there is talk that, some candidates may be changed so that, the concern expressed by the protesters can be addressed. And also BJP is proposing to put 1 or 2 more MPs into the election fray because BJP feels that winnability is the most important factor as far as the candidate selection is concerned.
Right.
Already BJP has fielded around 4 MPs. Now 1 or 2 more be added.
All right, Akhilesh, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. So clearly the BJP, they're taking stock of the discontent after the first initial list of candidates was announced, leaving nothing to chance. We'll keep a close watch on those developments. But after his mega rally in Kolkata's Brigade Parade Ground on the 7th of March, the Prime Minister is back in Bengal today for a rally at Purulia. The Kolkata rally was celebrated by the BJP as a huge success. But after some rallies with poor turnouts in the last few days, including that of Home Minister Amit Shah in Jhargram, all eyes will be on the Prime Minister's rally at Purulia today. Monideepa Banerjee joins us with the very latest. Monideepa, you've been covering the election campaigns. It's been a hectic few days as far as the West Bengal polls are concerned. All eyes today on the Purulia rally. What are you picking up?
Yes, indeed. Everybody will be watching perhaps not so much what the Prime Minister has to say at the Purulia rally, but at the number of people who turn out to listen to him speak. We are being told by BJP sources that, the BJP is sparing no effort whatsoever to ensure that people turn up in large numbers. Now, technically, that shouldn't be very difficult because, in 2016, in the seats in Purulia, assembly seats in Purulia, the Trinamool swept it in 2016, but in 2019, both the MP seats went to BJP, and then the assembly segments too, all of them went to the BJP as well. Or in that, the BJP was ahead in most, I think, according to my last count. So given that, it shouldn't be difficult to, have a huge turnout. But on Tuesday, Yogi Adityanath was in Purulia, and the turnout was, thinner than expected is what the BJP is telling us. The turnout was also thinner than expected in other places. Rajnath Singh, he was in a district, and the turnout was thinner than expected. Yesterday, Smriti Irani and Ravi Kishan, two campaigners for Bengal, they cancelled their rallies. Of course, officially we were told that's because there was parliamentary business, but insiders are telling us that there's a concern at this sudden problem that the BJP is facing of thinner crowds on the ground than expected. So all eyes on what the Prime Minister says, of course, and the number of people who show up.
All right. Well, thinner crowds, Monideepa, bad news as far as political rallies are concerned, but one would say good news if you look at India's COVID numbers currently. Thanks so much for joining us with that update. We're going to slip into a very short break, but on the other side, we'll get you the big breaking story. Over 35,871 COVID-19 numbers have been reported in India. This is the highest since December. We'll get you the details on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. The big breaking story we're tracking for you. Over 35,000 new coronavirus cases have been reported in India in the last 24 hours. This is the highest daily COVID cases since early December. 172 COVID deaths have also been reported, which is slightly lower than the numbers we were reporting yesterday. Remember, there were 188 deaths that were reported yesterday. But this is the big breaking story that we're tracking. 35,871 new cases being reported in India. These are, in fact, worrying numbers, as this is the highest daily cases since early December. So once again, India's COVID cases, they're rising. This is almost a 3-month high that we are reporting of 35,871 new cases and 172 deaths being reported in this time period.